Wednesday. Good evening to my brothers and sisters. Good to see you, Deacon Charlie. Glad that you are here. Hope that others are on tonight. We know that we have been away from you all for the summer. We even started a new time for our prayer, our circle of prayer, which will be on Wednesdays now at 6:15 p.m. Sorry for the mix-up on the access code. Hopefully you will join us on next Wednesday. I hope that you've been having a good day. I realize that it is evening time, and for many of you, you're settling down and you're getting good. Good to see you, Pay. It's my sister Pay and Deacon Charlie. Good to see you all. And listen, it is so good to be here. I'm just glad that I'm still breathing, able to enjoy life and not take myself too seriously, and just this. I'm very grateful. So tonight begins our 12-week winter Bible study, which I'm calling the Master Class, and we'll be dealing with sort of various topics during these 12 weeks, and of course we'll have a break during Thanksgiving and all of that good stuff. But we'll meet every Wednesday at 7:30. Usually our class runs about 30 minutes, and sometimes we may go 5 minutes over. Pretty much that's what we'll be. And yeah, basically make it home just in time. Good. And so we want you to, if you can like and share with your Facebook page and let people know that we are on at 6:30. This is our Bible study, our master class for the fall. So tonight I want to look at this text in the New Testament, and it's found in John's Gospel, chapter number 5, in verses 1 through 15 from the New Living Translation of the Bible. And also we'll leave it up on the screen so you can see it. We'll be looking at this text tonight, and yeah, Charlie, I see. Charlie said he's ready to study. Yeah, I'm posting you up here so people can see you, Charlie. That's good to see you. All right. So I'm going to read some of it, and it's from John chapter 5, one of the Gospels. And it reads like this: Afterward, Jesus returned to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish holidays. And I think I'll pause here for a moment, a lot of Christian folks forget that Jesus was and is a Jew. He will always be, that's what he was when you see a Jew. So he did what Jewish people do, and just like what we do with our holy holidays. So he went to Jerusalem on the holy days. So inside the city near the sheep gate was the pool of Bethesda with 5 covered porches. Crowds of sick people, blind, lame, or paralyzed, lay on the porches. One of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. When Jesus saw him, he knew he had been ill for a long time. And he asked him, "Would you like to get well?" "I can't, sir," the sick man said, "for I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles up. Someone else always gets there ahead of me." Jesus told him, "Stand up, pick up your mat, and walk." Instantly the man was healed. He rolled up his sleeping mat and began walking. But this miracle happened on the Sabbath. So the Jewish leaders objected. They said to the man who was cured, "You can't work on the Sabbath. The law doesn't allow you to carry that sleeping mat." But he replied, "The man who healed me told me, 'Pick up your mat and walk.'" "And said such a thing as that? Who said such a thing as that?" they demanded. The man didn't know, for Jesus had disappeared into the crowd. But afterward, Jesus found him in the temple and told him, "Now you are well, so stop sinning, or something even worse may happen to you." Then the man went and told the Jewish leaders that it was Jesus who healed him. It's a very interesting text, and when you look at this text, I mean, I want us to kind of focus in when Jesus asked this question to this man. He knew he had been sick. So when he saw him in verse 6, he knew he had been ill for a long time. 38 years, the text said. He asked him, "Would you like to get well?" Now, when you think about this question, it sounds kind of cruel. It's just like, it's obvious that this man had been lame from birth. Everyone knew that, and even Jesus himself knew. It almost seems like, what a thing to ask somebody who is sick, "Do you want to get well?" On the surface, particularly if they've been sick for a long time. And, basically, would you want to be made well? And but it's a very searing question. And Jesus sort of asked a question that's obvious. You think that anybody who is sick wants to be made well. You think about oftentimes when politicians or other people who make laws that govern how poor people or how poverty is dealt with, and they ask people, "Do you want to live a better life?" Obviously, they want to live a better life, but there are circumstances at times that prevents people from living a better life or their best life. And it's almost as, asking, a child who has experienced some traumatic incident in their life, can't you just get over it? Why can't you get over it? So obviously you've gone through something difficult just to ask that kind of question. But Jesus did. He asked him, and the fact that it was so obvious that this man had really basically lived at this pool of Bethesda. Some places call it these five porches. Some would call it a place of healing, but he wasn't being healed because there was a story that an angel would come down and stir the pool, the water, and those who got in first would be healed. He could never get there in time. And he basically had, many things to say about why he couldn't get there. In terms of nobody would pick him up, they wouldn't take him. All of these things he would say. There were all kinds of people there, and Jesus happened to sort of pick him out. And the thing is, he was, he had taken up sort of residence in a place and had seemingly resigned himself to not getting out of the situation he was in. And that happens. I don't know about you, but if you think about it, sometimes it can happen to us. Sometimes, I've been in places in my own life where I just think I've, gotten to a place where you don't think anything can happen. You don't think anything can change. You don't think anything can be different. And it's easy to get there. Sometimes people who are outside of your life, looking at your life, will say things. Don't you want a better life for yourself? Don't you want to live better than this? And it's an obvious question. You want to live better. And some people would say, "Oh, you're just making excuses." But we don't know, except we're reading this text, what this man had experienced in his 38 years. We don't even know the trauma that he probably had experienced. It's just saying that he's lying there. He'd been sick for 38 years. Can you imagine that? Being sick and not being able to get the proper care, not able to get the care that will help you to get well, and just constantly sick for a long time. And he was at the place where miraculous healings were taking place, but it wasn't happening for him. When I think about this too, I thought about, when we see sometimes the prosperity in our country and everybody's not able to participate. Everybody's not able to be a part of the so-called prosperity. When we look at some of our communities are being gentrified and people are saying it's so wonderful, it's so great. We have a Starbucks now. I digress for a moment. One of my classmates the other day we talked about when there's when the Starbucks comes in, that things are about to change in the community. Not always for the good either. And so he was living at a place, as he was a regular there, at a place where healing was taking place, but he couldn't be healed. That had to be a really challenging, difficult thing to be in a place where other folks are getting what they need. You're there. You're in the vicinity. You're in the location. You're in the right place, but you're not able to seemingly get what you need for yourself. And his problem, it seems like Jesus is insensitive because he doesn't really know him. He's like a stranger talking to him. Um, and it's so interesting to think about, um, all the things that he's experiencing here. This stranger comes up to him and asks him this question, do you want to be healed? Do you want to be made? Do you want to? And some texts say, do you want to be made whole? And this one says, would you like to get well? Well being well being more than physical healing. I think well also encompasses your mental state, where you are mentally and emotionally. Because it wasn't just a matter that he wasn't able to walk. There was also something probably going on with how he was perhaps thinking. And and when you examine how long he wasn't unable to walk, and sometimes I know when I look at some of the issues that we face in our country, and I often ask that question, how long? Like for instance, how long do we have to continue to deal with racism and people's unwarranted, unfactual perceptions of those of us who are of African descent? How long do we have to deal with people's ignorance about us or and their perceptions of us? There's a series of articles coming out in the Washington Post about black coaches in the NFL, and I read a little bit of it today, and it's searing, it's sad, even today with all of the so-called progress we're making, and then they have this searing report called Blackout. That's the title of the series of articles in the Washington Post, and I think the first one is called Key Findings from Blackout, the Post series on Black NFL coaches, and it just talks about why black coaches continue to be denied coaching positions in the NFL nearly 20 years after it's this implementation of what they call the Rooney Rule, which stated that when there was a head coaching opening, that they had at least interview one black candidate, and of course hasn't um, it hasn't turned out too well. And you see people, particularly white coaches, getting jobs. A lot of them they're not very good, but they keep getting opportunities, and then they also it's a lot going into the article where where black coaches they're held to a higher standard. So if you come in and you don't win right away, like a white coach may get 3 years or four, some of them five, and you come in, you may get a year or two, and then most likely you're going to end up on a team that's probably pretty bad. So when you look at this text, at least I do, I'm just enamored by this question that Jesus raises and actually what is going on. And it's really talking about authentic change. That's kind of where I'm headed to tonight. Is authentic change that it can happen. Like, oh, yeah, that's so true, Pay. I'm gonna post that up so people can see that black people are always held to a higher standard. It's true, almost in every profession, and not just in sports, but in if you're in the workplace, it's you always you're held to some higher standards, and more other people don't have to do the same. It's just very interesting. It's a wonder. I always think it's a wonder black folks we haven't lost our minds. So I guess some of us have. But when you think about this, is I'm really talking about authentic change. Authentic change can happen because when you look at this story, this story that's being told here. Here's a man who had not experienced change yet. He's been sort of stuck in the same situation, same place for a long time. This 38 years. And I don't. If we're honest, sometimes you do. You find yourself stuck. You find yourself wanting things to happen, wanting authentic change, not just for yourself, but for your community or your family. And it seems like it's not there. And so when we think about this, you think about it in the context of authentic change. What needs to happen? I mean, what? How do you get there? How do you get to authentic change? When you look at this story, and you think about what Jesus already knew about him, and but Jesus, even with Jesus knowing all of this, he knew that this man, something could happen for him. But also, this man had to participate in his own healing, and I think that's what we miss a lot of times about miracles in the scriptures is that we just think that there are times, yes, when people like Lazarus is raised from the dead, but in other cases there's something that the person does. Even when the Roman centurion soldier wanted his child to be healed, he wasn't there. Jesus wasn't going to be in the location, in the proximity of where his child was. He just told Jesus, "Look, if you just speak the word, I know she will be healed." And so, but the centurion had to, ask, and he actually believed that something could happen. So, the thing is, if authentic change, because we hear a lot about change today, but all change is not equal. Some change is not authentic. Some people change because it's politically correct to do it for a moment. As you could remember, a few years ago, um, uh, 2020, Black Lives Matter. There were protests in the street. There were, uprisings all over the country. And so some of corporate America, decided, they wanted to put up Black Lives Matter on their websites and give, a few $1 million to, some causes. And but was it really authentic change, or was it just to do something because the temperature was rising? Was it just to do something to appease a group of people who have been uh, mistreated for a long time, over 250 years and going? So, but was it really authentic change? Because authentic change, yes, it can happen individually immediately for us in some ways, but in a lot of ways, it takes time. It takes energy. But in this case, in this man, this case, how does this authentic change happen? And with what authentic change, what happens is real change happens in your mind. It happens in your mind. That's what real change. It happens in your mind. And um, there are there 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 are many of us, I'm included. Things don't really happen or change authentically for us because we haven't really changed the way we think about it. And it seems trite, but it's true. Real change happens in your mind. Yeah, and it, I'm not gonna. It's not always that easy. Yeah, it's challenging, but it happens if you want it to change. You have to be willing to change your mind about it. Yeah, and if you never get your mind, you just say you never get your mind right, then change. It can't happen. If you can't get your mind straight. But real change, it happens in your mind. Um, and we know the scripture, as a person thinks in their mind, so is he or she. But think about it. Think about the things that you've done in your life, right? And think about when you got your mind focused on something to do it. What happened? Because sometimes we don't think about how we get to the end of something, or how do we process something and really what happens. But think about when you got your mind focused, what really happened? What happened for you? I mean, it could be something as significant, but sometimes we don't say it's significant. It's eating. Like you say, well, I really want to work on my eating, and you start thinking differently about food, like what's really good for you, what's going to be healthy for you, how you going to eat, or when. And once you start to change your mind about it, you know what happens next. You form sort of a habit around it. You form a routine. You form a different way of doing things. Now, listen, I have to be honest. I love French fries, right? And like my sister Jackie, we love chips. So, but what I had to do, what I am working on, is when I go to a place, if I happen to go to a place that, occasionally I want a hamburger, right? So if they have an alternative like fruit, or a little salad, or something other than fries, then that's what I will order. And I try to get that in my mind when I'm going. Or other times I just think about, okay, you can't, I'm not going to have that today. I'm going to put that in my mind. I'm not going to do that today. But it's in your mind. It's like it's in your mind. Real change, it happens in your mind. And what does that involve? It involves your perception of reality. How do you perceive reality? Your perception of reality is key. In terms of how your mind changes. It's important in terms of how you perceive stuff. Um, and we all have a perception of reality. Um, and at times it could be, your perception can be helpful, or it can stop you from achieving your goals or things that you want to do. Um, so your perception, it really really matters in terms of how you perceive something. Like, if I'm going through some classes now, taking classes, right? And some people will say, "Man, I couldn't be going back to school at my age," or I don't think I could be in the classroom, blah 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 blah, whatever. But one of the things I had to do with myself, because I had been out of school for quite a while, is to say, hey, I can do this. Maybe I can even do it better than I did it before. Um, you know, um, and and working on my perception of what I can achieve and what I can do. I don't think I'm any smarter than anybody else, But my perception is that I can do it. I can do the work. and I can learn. I'm still capable of learning. And I think when you work on your perception of reality, you can experience authentic change. It's like go back to this text uh, in verse 6 when Jesus saw him and he knew he had been ill for a long time. And he asked him, would you like to get well? Maybe he had never been asked that question before. You never know. Sometimes people see you in a situation and they never engage with you. Sometimes even your family, your friends, they're afraid. They don't know how you may react, so they don't engage. They just let you keep doing whatever it is that you're doing. All right? But he asked him, would you like to get well? He just didn't assume he wanted to get well. He didn't make any assumptions about it. Just because he had been there for a long time, he didn't he didn't want to make an assumption. The assumption. Now, one assumption could have been made that he didn't want to get well. Maybe we could say that maybe Jesus asked him because he wanted to make sure. Would you like to get well? Because you've been here a long time. All right. And then he said, in verse 7, this is what this man says. He don't even have a name for him. He says, I can't, sir. The sick man said, for I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles up. That's when the angel had touched him. And supposedly there was healing in the waters for a brief moment of time. Someone else always gets there ahead of me, he said. So Jesus already asked him, would you like to get well? He said, I can't, sir. All right. He never says, for I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles up. Someone else always get there. So the way he answered his question was to say why he couldn't get well, why he was still there at the pool. I can't, because ain't nobody there to help me to get in this water when it's bubbling up. Someone always gets ahead of me, beats me. Competition is fierce. Someone always get the job before me. I apply, but I ain't get it. But sometimes you got to apply again. So Jesus told him, stand up, pick up your mat, and walk. First thing he told him, look, stand up. Right? So you think about this man had to perceive in this moment, his perception had to change, and maybe I can stand up. So stand up. He spoke to him. This man's perception of himself probably changed because of verse 9 that said, instantly the man was healed. And he rolled up his sleeping mat and began walking. Think about that. Sometimes people will speak into your life and say the very thing that you need to do, and you will do it because your perception will change. They will speak, and you won't even hesitate. You will just do. Perhaps, I don't know, this man had been hesitating. Who knows? But it's about how you perceive yourself, what your beliefs are, what your thoughts are. They all matter. Maybe this man thought he couldn't walk. Maybe he just needed somebody to tell him he could walk. Perceptions, your belief, your thoughts, your mental interpretation of life and experience are more important than actuality. Think about this. This man thought he couldn't walk because he didn't get in the pool. Jesus didn't use the pool. He just told him to get up, stand up. So, it matters what you think about yourself. It matters how you interpret your reality for yourself. That's why we've got to be careful, particularly as African people, to tell our stories. All right, we got to be careful that we tell our stories. Even when they censor books like they're doing in Florida and Georgia and across the country, and then some guy now he has a children's book out about the election was stolen, and I'm pretty sure they'll allow that book to go through. I'm pretty sure. But the thing is, I think is your perception matters of reality, and if you're going to have authentic change and real change, it starts in your mind. Now I know it's challenging, I know it's difficult, and that's why we like to spend time in prayer or meditation because these things can help you get your mind in a place where it can experience sort of a different perception, different reality. And that's all I want for you tonight is to think about authentic change. It can happen. It can happen for you. All right. Thank you for joining us tonight. Listen, if you like to make a contribution to our church, you can give through Givelify, you can give through the Cash App. Remember that all of your gifts are tax deductible, and we appreciate everything that you contribute and give to the church. You can go to our website, thevillagedc.church, and listen. Get on your social media platform and let people know uh, that we are on at 7:30 on Wednesday nights for our masterclass Bible study, and we certainly want them to attend and be present. And so, please share this study with other people and let them know. And again, if you'd like to give, you can give to Givelify, Cash App, go to our website. Remember, all of your gifts are tax deductible. All right, I'm going to end with a prayer, and I thank you all for coming. And listen, keep me in prayer as well. God, I thank you for everyone who came tonight. I pray that we will all want to embrace authentic change in our lives and for other people. Thank you for our ancestors, our parents, and grandparents and others and people who are all in our ancestral line who are praying for us, who have lived lives that paved a way for us in so many different kinds of ways in which we are so grateful. Now, God, keep us, bless our children, keep them safe in your son's name. Amen. Listen, have a wonderful and blessed evening. See you on Sunday at 9 a.m.